In the dim void of forgotten stars, a question stirs etched in encoded distress tones, whispered in the extradimensional darkness of the Imperium's cold voids. What realm lies beyond the silent echoes of the warp, where gods once walked among mortals? This lost chronicle, long buried in data slates beneath the dust of millennia, now awakens. The air thickens with ruin and a palpable hunger for forgotten truths, as unseen eyes peer through the veils between reality and myth. What horrors brood when divine beings wrought cataclysms upon endless battlegrounds? What echoes endure in shattered civilizations, consumed beneath the heel of celestial titans? Beneath the shattered remnants of worlds uncounted, the mortal realms breathe still scarred by the footprints of gods who were both creators and destroyers. Their thrones burned atop monolithic towers, casting shadows over the desolation that festers like a wound across the cosmos. The very fabric of existence teeters on the edge of collapse, memory twisted by ages of doubt. Those who scribble heresies in the underhalls of forgotten bastions speak in whispers of the age of Sigmar, not merely a legend, but a chronicle of divine war writ in blood and flame, whose end is neither salvation nor oblivion. From the cacophony of shattered realms, the sigils of ancient powers pulse with an ominous heartbeat. Each pulse a war cry from gods fallen and risen. They strode mighty, their will shaping reality itself, a harsh crucible where mortal flesh was but clay beneath divine mold. Empires of dust bear silent witness to their wrath, survivors clutching faith like a last weapon against the encroaching void. The warp's chorus murmurs warnings and prophecies. When gods tread upon the mortal soil, no soul escapes unscarred, and mortality itself becomes a battlefield for divinity's hunger. The chronicles of the Voidborn reveal twisted alliances and betrayals etched in starfire ancient deities locked in eternal conflict, their battles tearing rifts between realms. Devourers and creators alike crossed into mortal spheres, sowing fear and awakening dormant legions beneath shattered citadels. The dead, reanimated by divine wrath, rise as monuments of forgotten pacts, ghosts of civilizations that dared challenge the celestial mandates. When faith reverberates beyond the edge of reason, it becomes an instrument of destruction as much as salvation, and prayer a summons to ruin. In the twilight of crumbled pantheons, the echo of divine footsteps mingles with the dirge of dying stars. The great fractures in reality reveal glimpses of radiant thrones and malignant coronets, godly remnants tangled in eternal war. Mortals, once pawns, now wrestle with the dreadful inheritance of their gods' ruinous passions. The Imperium's archivists dare not name the ancient names, lest they summon dormant revulsions slumbering beneath sanity's fragile hold. Yet the thirst for knowledge persists, risking all to pierce the veil and glimpse the true cost of divine conflict. Amidst the void-racked chapters, a prophecy lingers. When the summoned storm of gods descends, reality will rend like brittle bone. Celestial storms sweep mortal realms, reshaping mountains into demons, rivers into streams of molten wrath. The skies bear witness to the fall of giant astral colossi, their roars extinguished across eons. Faith fades into despair or fanaticism, for worship is as much a prison as a shield. The divine hand wields both mercy and ruin, and between these extremes lies a fragile hope, one yet unspoken, barely glimpsed through shattered faith. The shadows grow longer where cosmic Empyreans once danced, casting dread across the remnants of mortal kingdoms. Ruin marks the footprints of gods whose eyes burned with cold fury, and whose hearts beat with inexorable hunger. Their storms birthed nightmares blistering flesh and bone, forging new hells where hope turned to ash. Relics of their might, pulsing with unseen energies, become coveted by warlords desperate to wield the past's forgotten power. But within these artifacts lies a curse, a whisper of a darker destiny, patiently waiting for the unwary to unlock the final key. Darkness is an echo, but in it a spark flickers. Buried deep beneath the chaos-shattered plains, a sealed enigma hums with malignant promise. The last vestiges of forgotten gods slumber, their dreams bleeding into the mortal coil in fragmented visions. Battle-scarred warbands speak of a whispered rupture in reality's fabric, a minor fracture, barely noticed but growing. The warp thrums with restless energy, a prelude to something ancient and terrible awakening. The silence before the divine storm is deafening, pregnant with dread and anticipation. In hidden sanctuaries where the light of stars barely reaches, scholars and heretics risk life to decode the ancient glyphs. Their findings hint at a cycle of divine rise and fall, a Pyrrhic eternity repeating beyond time's edge. Witnesses claim the boundaries between the mortal realms and a far darker dominion grow thin. Some say the true gods never departed. They merely retreat, gathering strength to walk again. The fragile veil between reverence and horror threatens to tear, revealing a truth meant to be lost to shadow and oblivion. One whispered name fractures silence. The twisted Sigmar, a god once radiant, now warped by eternal conflict. His return is both bane and beacon, his footsteps a herald of apocalypse and renewal. Legends speak of his shattered crown, broken across stars, each fragment a world torn from grace. His voice, a dual-edged decree, promises salvation through ruin. Faithful and damned alike tremble, caught in the tide of his inevitable reclamation. The eternal war is no longer only between mortals and gods, it is within divinity itself, a split soul seeking unity in destruction. The final fragments of this forbidden chronicle vibrate with a portent unseen, a quiet, uncanny stillness amidst cosmic chaos. A ripple in time's fractured stream hints at a destiny withheld, a subtle fissure where fate's threads fray and unravel. The gods' relentless march halts, eyes turning inward, as if sensing a presence older than their divine strife. The mortal realms hold their breath. Beneath ruin and faith's broken cries lies a truth severe and silent, waiting in darkness. Whether salvation or damnation, only the unborn future will reveal. As the chronicle fades, silence swells a cosmic pause pregnant with dread. The last data rune flickers, then dies, leaving a void whispering of a dark covenant. The revelation waits, veiled beneath shifting shadows, a secret too terrible for even the gods to name. The eternal war rages on, but within the heart of destruction beats a hidden fracture, one whose unfolding will shake the foundations, of mortal and divine alike, echoing into eternity. The question remains, when gods walk among mortals, who truly wields dominion, the created or the creators themselves? The whispers seep through granite walls carved by mortal hands, where zealots and veterans alike kneel before icons chipped and bleeding the echoes of lost creeds. Faith, once unshakable, now curdles like tainted wine in the chalice of worn rituals. Warriors grip relics inscribed with prayers older than empires, yet their eyes betray a silent turmoil questions, weighing heavier than their armor. Doctrines fractured by despair sift through minds like ashes, while beneath the surface, shadows twist loyalty into a weapon sharper than any blade. The sacred and profane merge, entwining in a dance of light and ruin beneath waning stars. In war-torn bastions where candles gutter beneath cracked domes, preachers dispatch sermons with trembling reverence, weaving salvation and condemnation in equal measure. Their words attempt to fortify trembling spirits, but doubt festers, poison mingling with holy vows. The faithful ask if the gods' footsteps are blessings or maledictions, if divine wrath is punishment or purposeless destruction. Rival sects vie for dominance, their factions cloaked in piety, yet their schemes drip with ambition and betrayal. Faith has become currency and cudgel, a fragile mask veiling desperation and the silent fracture of belief in the ever-burning twilight of the mortal realms. Among shattered banners and echoes of fallen legions, commanders exchange wary glances steeped in suspicion. What once unified as devotion now divides in hushed conspiracies. Battles rage not only on desolate fields stained with blood, but within council chambers and dim corridors, where whispers carve clefts in camaraderie. Alliances born of faith fracture as ambition tempts hearts once steadfast. Soldiers of legend become pawns in a cosmic game of power and apostasy, where the line between hero and heretic blurs beneath the weight of endless war. Loyalty is a shifting shadow, no longer refuge but battleground itself. In tempest-raven skies above the dying worlds, a dying sun bleeds amber light over broken relics strewn like memories. The air tastes of ash, yet spirits cling to prayers sung not for victory but survival. Among the dying, a chilling truth gnaws at the core. Faith is not a shield but a crucible, forging warriors into saints or sacrifices. The old orders crumble under the strain, yielding warped interpretations of righteousness, where obedience breeds tyranny and mercy becomes betrayal. The very essence of devotion convulses in agony, a silent scream beneath the thunder of war's cruel symphony. Silent archives beneath the blistered earth hide fated scrolls and forbidden secrets, their ink smeared with the blood of countless martyrs. Here, scholars risk decay in search of forgotten wisdom, their discoveries unsettling sacred orthodoxies. Evidence surfaces of divine manipulation, of gods who feed not only on worship, but on the suffering wrought in their name. The line between creator and consumer blurs. The sacred becomes predatory. Whispered revelations unsettle the faith that binds humanity. The realization that the immortal beings once revered might be architects of suffering as much as salvation, driving mortals along paths no prayer can alter. In the shattered sanctuaries of lost heroes, broken icons stare with hollow eyes as shadows lengthen over fractured truths. The noble martyrs, once paragons of faith, are revealed to have succumbed quietly to doubt and despair before their final rites. Their struggles, etched in tarnished hymns, suggest that no soul remains untouched by corruption or fear. Beneath the veneer of sanctity, betrayal simmers, subtle and relentless. A slow poison eroding the foundations of belief. If the divine falters, who then holds the mantle of righteousness? The echoes of this question haunt every whispered prayer and fallen comrade's breath. Amidst these crumbling vestiges, a scholar priest uncovers a dormant truth, one that threatens to unmake all certainties. The scriptures and prophecies once hailed as inviolate begin to unravel, exposing contradictions stitched into the framework of doctrine. The divine promises are revealed not as eternal truths, but fragile constructs, crumbling under scrutiny. Even the sacred relics pulse with uneasy energy, emanations of beings whose intentions twist beyond mortal comprehension. The revelation spreads clandestine fear, fracturing councils and igniting bitter disputes between those who cling to blind faith and those who yearn for forbidden knowledge. Underneath the eternal darkness of a void-stricken sky, a battle erupts not of lasers or blades, but of faith and reason. The once unified chorus of worship splits into discordant strain, zealots brandishing heresy as their banner, rebels questioning the divine mandate. Shadows move amid shattered altars. Prayers falter and souls waver on the knife edge between salvation and damnation. The corridors of power thrum with whispered plots, as betrayal blooms like a malignant blossom in hallowed halls. Amid the dust and ruin, the meaning of righteousness warps into a weapon used for control and vengeance alike. A void-touched envoy arrives, bearing cryptic messages from an unknown patron, one who claims authority beyond the recognized divine order. Their presence unsettles the faithful. Their words dissolve old certitudes into a mire of suspicion. Is this emissary herald of salvation or harbinger of doom? Murmurs suggest a forgotten pact, one that entwines mortal fate with shadowy divine machinations. The new gospel unsettles doctrines and fractures allegiances, revealing fractures in the imperial facade of unity. The thin veneer of order shatters further as the forces gathering in silence prepare for a reckoning beyond mortal comprehension. Beneath the burning skies, a once revered warlord vanishes during a solemn procession, leaving behind a throne of ashes and whispered accusations. His disappearance triggers a forbidden inquiry that fractures command and faith alike, a silent storm pulse threading suspicion into every loyal heart. Over the vox net, Encrypted transmissions hint at betrayal within the highest sanctums. A betrayal not only of flesh and steel, but of the sacred trust binding the realms. The very definition of loyalty teeters, as the Imperium's pillars tremble beneath the weight of secrets that unravel centuries of devotion. The breaking point dawns when a hidden conclave exposes a heresy long buried beneath veils of false piety, the worship of a dark, forgotten god whose shadow pollutes the roots of the divine order. Scrolls stained with arcane poison detail rites that undermine the foundations of all belief. The revelation fractures hearts, dividing warrior from priest, loyalist from renegade. Faithful eyes now stare blankly into the abyss, caught between the horror of truth and the comfort of lies, as a new and terrible war awakens, not on the battlefield, but in the souls of all who dare to believe. As final whispers echo through collapsing sanctuaries, a signal pierces the void, a pulse of unholy energy, unmistakably divine, yet alien and twisted beyond comprehension, erupting from the fractured realm's depths. It ripples through minds like a maddening hymn, fracturing sanity and faith alike. The rupture in reality widens, revealing glimpses of a nightmarish god, neither savior nor destroyer, but something older and infinitely more terrifying. The war for mortal souls has just begun, but the true enemy is not the gods who march openly in the shadows. It is the secret that none dare speak aloud. Beneath a bleeding star that hung low and desolate, the last vestiges of a once vibrant outpost clung to existence. Its broken battlements echoed with the prayers of a dying sergeant. His voice was a confession, not of triumph, but of torment. He bore the weight of 1,000 battles etched into his flesh and soul, yet within him flickered a fragile flame of belief, a desperate ember against the encroaching dark. Memories of lost brothers, of ancient rites now hollowed by doubt, haunted his every breath. His faith was a fragile shackle, binding him as much to hope as to despair, in a galaxy where gods walked but abandoned their children to endless ruin. The warp's tide surged with violent passion, twisting reality as psychic screams rent the fabric of space-time. A sudden uproar exploded on a shattered world, where eldritch energies clawed through psychic veils and shattered minds. Among the chaos, a lone psyker grappled with visions, not his own, fragments of a cosmic lie revealed in painful flashes. The very foundation of faith cracked beneath him, each revelation a jagged blade piercing long-held truths. Reality folded and fractured as the warp whispered its darkest enigma, that the divine itself was a mask, concealing deeper, darker forces whose roots predated all creation. Within the citadels where litanies once flowed like rivers of light, political intrigue rotted the heart of command. Lords, priests, and warlords spun webs of deceit, thick with ancient grievances and petty ambition. The old faith, once the bedrock of unity, now festered with suspicion and betrayal. Each whispered accusation was a crack in a cracked chalice, threatening to spill sacred blood onto cold stone. Devotion was bartered like currency, loyalty sold to the highest bidder, or sacrificed to obscure heresies. The death of belief morphed into a war of shadows within shadows, where righteousness was a weapon wielded in service to a crumbling order. A solitary warrior sat beneath a frost-bitten sky, his armor scarred and dulled by endless conflict, but his eyes aflame with the last light of conviction. He bore the weight of centuries, the echoes of saints long vanished, yet his soul trembled under the crushing weight of doubt. Memories bled into nightmares, visions of gods who wielded mortals like pawns, yet abandoned them to decay. Each breath was a prayer for meaning in a universe stripped bare. His confession was raw and whispered into the cold void. What is faith when the divine is silent, and hope is consumed by the abyss? His question hung like a curse, unanswered and unforgiving. The cataclysmic clash above a dying planet released a surge of psychic terror, washing over the embattled legions caught in its wake. Visions of impossible geometry and color beyond comprehension seared their minds. Among the screams, a revelation tore through the madness, a forgotten truth carved into the bones of creation themselves. The gods, heralds of order and chaos, were but fragments of an ancient, all-encompassing consciousness. This primordial force birthed light and shadow in equal measure, a cosmic balance whose severed pieces struggled eternally for dominion. The immortal war was revealed as a fractured shadow play, a danse macabre concealing a terrible unity beneath. In the depth of subterranean cathedrals, priests gathered in grim conclave under the gaze of shattered statues. Their faces bore the marks of sleepless nights and silent prayers. Discussions turned to forbidden teachings, uncovered in secret archives, texts that spoke of a primordial truth, woven into the very warp that had birthed the gods themselves. The implications fractured the faith of even the most devout. What if the gods were not divine arbiters but prisoners of this ancient will? The fragile theological scaffolding trembled, threatening to collapse under the weight of a hidden cosmic order that had shaped mortal and immortal fate beyond comprehension. A battle-worn commander, standing on the precipice of a shattered world, wrestled with the ghosts of his past. Visions of betrayal, of comrades turned traitor under whispered promises of power, gnawed at his soul. Loyalty and righteousness twisted into indistinguishable shadows as he questioned the true cost of obedience. Had he served the divine or a specter of madness cloaked in holy light? The stars above seemed to watch with cold indifference as the balance between conviction and heresy wavered. His internal storm mirrored the external desolation, both consumed by an unrelenting hunger for truth that might poison salvation itself. As the warp surged, an ancient fortress world trembled under assault from seemingly impossible enemies, specters of forgotten wars, and entities born of starlight and shadow. The defenders clung to fraying beliefs, their chants battling the maddening psychic tide. Suddenly, a burst of vision revealed the cruel puppet masters behind the eternal war. Cosmic architects manipulating mortal and divine alike, their motives inscrutable, their cruelty unfathomable. The revelation shattered the illusion of free will, casting the war as a stage for entities indifferent to flesh and faith. The cost was apathy beyond darkness, the promise of godhood twisted into eternal servitude. In the sacred halls of an ancient temple, a solitary figure uncovered a relic bearing runes unlike any known, a key to the primordial truth and the cosmic balance hidden beneath faith itself. The relic pulsed with cold light, a heartbeat from a source dead before history began. Touching the artifact, the figure's mind shattered and reformed, visions pouring like a torrent, memories of a universe birthed through sacrifice, betrayal, and the ceaseless struggle between unity and devastation. The line between God and mortal blurred, revealing a shared origin born of primordial cosmic despair rather than grace or glory. This truth threatened not only belief, but existence itself. The fragile alliance between mortals and their gods cracked irreparably as whispered secrets seeped into the hearts of champions and priests alike. Faith was no longer a bastion but a battleground, each act of devotion or defiance forging history anew. War spiraled into chaos, fueled as much by spiritual collapse as by hatred. In the midst of this, an unexpected figure emerged, inspired not by divinity, but by cold clarity, seeking to sever the cycle and seize control of the cosmic balance for mortal will alone. The old order trembled, and the galaxy itself held its breath, poised on the edge of irrevocable transformation. Beneath the dying light of a supernova, a primal scream shattered the silence, a psychic echo of the ancient cosmos rebelling against its own fate. The fabric of the mortal realms convulsed, revealing a chasm leading to a place beyond gods and mortals alike. There, a being of impossible aspect waited, neither god nor demon, but the seed of all contradictions and the source of the eternal war. Its gaze stripped away illusions, revealing that the conflict was a mere shadow of a deeper torment. Creation itself was a wound, and the war the pain of a cosmos desperate for healing and damned to repeat its agony. The final vision unfold at a transformation that chills the marrow. A chosen few, touched by the primordial truth, begin to transcend the bounds between mortal and divine. Their forms shimmer with the agony and ecstasy of cosmic revelation, bearing the mark of a new beginning forged in cataclysm. Yet their ascent fractures the cosmos, unraveling old orders and heralding an age where gods may become ghosts and mortals might inherit the vast emptiness where divinity once reigned. The saga shifts, no longer a tale of gods walking mortals, but of mortals wrestling the gods' shattered legacies, caught between ruin and rebirth in an endless whispered nightmare. Amid a void where dying stars blink like distant, indifferent witnesses, the weight of countless sins presses heavily on those who still bear the standard of faith. Each step ignites echoes of broken oaths, convulsing beneath armor stained with blood and shadow. In hollow cathedrals, the air is thick with the scent of incense and despair, a suffocating silence braced against the thunder of war to come. Soldiers ready their weapons, prayers clawing from cracked lips as if these whispered promises might stave off oblivion. Every heartbeat is a covenant of sacrifice against a fate as cold and unyielding as the void itself. The cost of devotion is a ledger written in agony, inscribed across souls forged in fire and loss. Under shattered war-torn skies, memories flare like tracer rounds, visions of brothers lost to betrayal, of sanctified war masters who fell to ambition's shadow. These ghosts forge a spectral procession, a mournful march in the minds of those who survive. Each recollection is a fracture in the resolve, yet unyielding determination steels their spirits. Torn between hatred and longing, they face enemies not only of flesh but of spirit, battling the corrosion of doubt gnawing at their very core. The wings of the death knell beat relentlessly, and the haunting question lingers: can loyalty endure when the gods themselves seem to falter? The latticework of ambition and faith knits itself into a deadly web, as rulers and clergy weave secrets with the precision of poison. In twilight chambers, conspirators whisper of dominion sown through deception, holy edicts twisted to serve mortal greed or cosmic designs. Alliance and enmity curl around one another like serpents, a dance of shadows whose steps spill rivers of blood. The weight of each betrayal ripples outward, cracking nations and shattering hope like fragile bone. Bound by solemn oaths and broken promises, warriors march toward inevitable ruin, their burden not just of steel but of the soul's fracture under the strain of too many sins. Upon the edge of desolation, a veteran warrior contemplates the scars mapped across his flesh, each one a hymn to battles lost and glories perished. His breath is a prayer cast into the void, a confession meant to bridge the widening gulf between duty and despair. Memories unfurl years of dogma, of faith forged in battle and sanctity. Now he stands at a precipice where loyalty inches toward madness, where the whispered lies of gods unravel into chaos. The silence before war is a living thing, filling lungs with ash and hearts with ice. A single moment teeters between obliteration and redemption, held captive by the weight of countless broken vows. The roar of orbital bombardment rends the skies as death streaks like molten silver across ruined cities beneath a blood-red sun. The clash is thunder, a rupture in the galaxy's fragile skin, yet within this fury lies intimate grief dreams turned to dust, futures fractured in the roar's echo. Among the screams and infernos, souls grasp for shards of hope, prayers mingling with cries of agony. Every salvo is a confession of failure, each explosion a requiem for faith's slow decay. As the heavens crack and fire rains, warriors steel themselves not only for survival, but for the burden of witnessing the world's slow unraveling beneath divine indifference. As battlefields blaze, underground catacombs echo with the heavy footfall of repentance and regret. Priests chant mournful requiems, their voices wavering like shattered glass. In sacred crypts, relics glint with desecrated light, and the delicate balance between salvation and damnation trembles on the edge of collapse. The faithful gaze skyward through fractured domes, seeking answers in fractured stars, no longer willing to guide. Within these moments, loyalty bends beneath the crushing weight of unspoken truths that unravel the meaning of sacrifice and challenge the very tenets of their creeds. Faith becomes both sanctuary and prison, a fragile armor against the annihilating silence of forsaken hope. A sudden psychic storm tears through the warp-streaked horizon visions, flood minds with the crushing pressure of cosmic revelation. Flashes of a primordial design shatter illusions. The gods were neither saviors nor tyrants, but woven fragments of a greater, incomprehensible will. Mortals, blinded by ambition and worship, have become actors in a tragedy scripted eons ago. The pain of this truth burns with the cold fire of betrayal, as the cosmos twists under the weight of its own concealed anguish. The psychic tempest crescendos, a hymn of lament and fury born from the ancient, hidden scars etched into the soul of reality itself. Behind the shattered walls of a fallen keep, a council gathers worn commanders and aged clergy locked in desperate discourse. Their faces are carved with the knowledge of too many sacrifices, their words a brittle dance of blame and hope. The fractures of belief manifest as fractures among their ranks, old rivalries rekindling in the smoldering shadows of a dying order. Yet beneath their discord, a terrifying truth is shared. The very fabric of the war's narrative has been woven from falsehoods, engineered to perpetuate endless conflict. This knowledge sows seeds of revolt within the heart of loyalty itself, an uprising not of arms, but of shattered faith. A lone psyker, eyes alight with the glow of forbidden knowledge, traces arcane symbols in the dust of a ruined sanctuary. Their mind is a battleground of ecstasy and torment, as visions unveil forbidden truths carved into the bones of the universe. The past and future swirl in a kaleidoscope of despair and revelation. They glimpse the cosmic cycle of ruin and rebirth, a symphony of destruction pulsating beneath the veneer of divine wars. This secret, fragile and terrible, threatens to undo the very warp of belief, unraveling the gods and mortals alike when unleashed upon the fragile tapestry of existence. From the depths of silence, a sudden betrayal rends the sanctity of a war council. A trusted figure reveals allegiance to a shadowed faction, and with their confession, the fragile illusion of unity shatters. The betrayal echoes through the halls like a death knell, fracturing bonds built over millennia. Amidst the uproar, dark fragments of ancient magic flare symbols of a heresy that corrupts not only body but soul. The revelation spreads like wildfire, igniting war within war, twisting loyalty into paranoia and dread. The cosmos tilts toward chaos as trust dissolves, and the very notion of righteousness crumbles beneath the weight of exposed treachery. Stars dim beneath the oppressive shadow of the impending storm as armies gather for the last charge, countless souls bound by oaths that will bind or break them forever. The air holds a trembling stillness, the calm before an apocalypse whispered in every quivering breath. The war cries will soon thunder across the abyss, but beneath that fury lies an unbearable truth. The conflict they embrace may be the harbinger of a fate far worse than death. The skies wait, heavy and pregnant with silence, as the universe braces for a reckoning that will rend the heavens and shatter the fragile hope of all who dare to believe. Just as the first volleys ignite the dark horizon, an ancient relic fractures in the hands of a young acolyte, its fractures splitting time itself, ripping open a sliver of forbidden's reality. Through the tear, a vision stabs the cosmos, a future where gods are nothing but echoes and mortals inherit a silent void filled with the bones of broken faith. The revelation chills blood and soul alike, a destiny reshaped, a war redefined, and a power awakened that neither God nor man could ever have foreseen. The echo of that impossible truth crashes down as the eternal night descends, ready to consume all. The void trembled as the final assault commenced, a storm of fire and faith clashing beneath the shattered heavens. A cacophony of bolter fire, scorched earth, and fervent cries tore through the darkness, each heartbeat marking the edge of oblivion. Warriors fell like stars extinguished, their sacrifice a silent hymn to fading hope. Amidst the chaos, a lone figure stood unyielding, armor radiant with the last light of belief. His voice rose an aria of defiance and sorrow, a prayer for the lost and forsaken. The air thickened with ruin and grace, as if the very cosmos bore witness to a sacrifice immense and intimate, where destiny and despair entwined in their final dance. Flames consumed ancient fortresses, their towers crumbling like the faith that once raised them. From the smoke, spectral visions of fallen saints flickered, ghosts locked in endless penance, their eyes hollow with the weight of unfulfilled duty. Amidst this haunting, warriors battled not only enemies but their own haunted pasts, each strike a testament to broken oaths and relentless hope. The sky cried blood, and the earth groaned with every fallen soul. In these moments, time fractured chaotic shards, shattering linear fate, revealing glimpses of a truth too profound to bear. The cosmos whispered, a lament for a war with no end, and for faith teetering on the edge of annihilation. As the battle roared, a psychic scream split the ether, jagged and unbearable, tearing minds and reality alike. The psyker at its eye dissolved into raw energy, scattered across dimensions, yet his final vision burned clear, a revelation that the war was but a circle, a trap spun by ancient cosmic forces perpetuating their torment. The battle was not for salvation, but entrapment, and the gods, redeemed or damned, were prisoners of this eternal cycle. His sacrifice a warning that echoed in the hearts of warriors, that breaking the chain would demand a cost greater than any had borne before, a price written in the blood of stars and the silence of gods. A captain, clad in stained ceramite, reached the shattered throne atop the battlefield, a monument carved with runes of forgotten power. Holding the fractured relic, he whispered the names of the fallen, each syllable a vow and a requiem. His breath faltered as he faced the abyss revealed beneath the throne, a shimmering veil where past, present, and future converged. In this fragile instant, he glimpsed not victory, but a deeper ruin, an endless night where gods walked no more, and mortals bore the weight of creation's broken promise. His hand trembled, poised to shatter or uphold, a single choice rippling through the fabric of all existence. The last stand erupted in a fury beyond mortal comprehension, where echoes of divine wrath and mortal defiance collided in blinding bursts of ruin. Time fractured further, warping the senses with visions of infinite death and rebirth, halting in agonized suspense. Brothers in arms fought side by side, their glances heavy with unspoken goodbyes. Blood dripped slow as fate's relentless drumbeat counted down their final moments. A shattering blow severed the line, and then silence. The storm retreated, leaving behind a sky that no longer bled, a quiet vast as the grave. The battlefield was empty, but for the whispers of sacrifice, a breath held in eternity. In the cold aftermath, knights of the Imperium knelt amidst ruins, their armor etched with the grime of immutable loss. They bore the weight of silence like a shroud, their souls marked by the memory of those who had vanished beneath the crushing tide of war. Beneath fractured banners, they whispered prayers to gods who no longer answered, their faith a fragile ember amid the ash. Yet in the depths of quiet, a new tremor stirred not of hope, but of change. Something eternal had shifted, a silent fracture in the cosmos itself, unknown and unspoken, waiting patiently in the dark. A lone archivist descended into the crypts beneath the battlefield, guided only by wavering candlelight and the ghost of a forgotten hymn. Among relics and dust, he discovered a hidden chamber, a tomb inscribed with sigils older than the Imperium itself. Within lay a crystal pulsing faintly with an eerie glow, resonating with forbidden knowledge. As he reached out, the air thickened and visions cascaded, the birth and death of gods, betrayals carved in cosmic bones, and a secret too terrible for mortal mind. The crystal's light flickered, and with its pulse, the archivist's eyes turned glassy, his voice a whisper of an unending war to come. Back in the remnants of shattered command, heralds struggled to bind fractured factions, their voices hoarse from pleading. The war had hollowed them, faith shattered like glass beneath relentless hammer blows of doubt. Each alliance was fragile, woven of desperation as old hatreds flared anew among zealots and heretics alike. The very concept of unity had become a relic, as fragile and distant as the dying stars overhead. Yet beneath the chaos, rumors spread of a force rising neither divine nor mortal, a power able to reshape the ruined cosmos. This whispered hope was also a warning. The end was not salvation, but transformation, irreversible and infinite. In twilight cloisters, a last conclave gathered high priests and warlords, scarred by the war's endless march. The summit was a tapestry of regret, fear, and determination. Their final decree shattered ancient orthodoxy. The gods might have fallen, but their legacies endured fractured, yes, but alive. It was a pledge to wield this fragmented power with relentless will, to remake the war-torn universe through sacrifice and dominion. Yet beneath this vow lay a terrible truth. In inheriting divine ruins, they embraced doom. Hope was now a double-edged blade, its strike inevitable and catastrophic, aimed at both salvation and destruction. High above the maw of darkness, the battlefield's shattered remnants glowed faintly with psychic echoes, the final remnants of souls torn between redemption and oblivion. A solitary figure rose, transfigured by divine agony, bearing the burden of a truth that fractured the bones of Crete itself, that creation was a lie spun by forces beyond gods and mortals. This revelation bore the weight of eternity, and with silent finality, the figure vanished into the void an omen, a sacrifice, a herald of the next age. The cosmos held its breath, trembling not from war's roar, but from the slow unraveling of all meaning. The stars dimmed once more as the last echoes of battle faded into a mournful silence. The firmament had shifted, nothing could return to what it once was. Beneath the stillness lay a secret folded deep. The war was not an end, but a beginning, an unveiling of the cosmos' true nature, hidden beneath lies and blood for millennia. In this quiet, only the patient stars knew the answer, watching as mortal and divine alike trembled before an unseen fate. The eternal night had fallen, but in its depths something waited, ancient, silent, and terrible, poised to claim what all had forsaken. And then before the universe could exhale, space itself fractured. A rift bloomed, dazzling and cold, casting a sickly light upon the remnants of faith and war. From its heart emerged a forgotten god, not reborn but awakened, neither savior nor destroyer, but something beyond comprehension. Its eyes held storms and silence, and with its arrival, destiny cracked. The war's narrative shattered, and the cosmos tilted on a new axis, one where all truths held captive would be set free in ruin or revelation. The eternal war was no longer conflict. It was becoming a reckoning. In the afterglow of annihilation, where stars burn dimmer and silence settles like a shroud over shattered worlds, the great cathedral tombs stand mute. Their spires fractured, stained with the soot of forgotten fires, they rise as solemn monuments to faiths long drowned in war. Within their hallowed chambers, whispers haunt the dust, a murmur of prayers unanswered, of saints fallen silent beneath the weight of cosmic indifference. The once mighty banners hang limp, threadbare remnants fluttering in a breeze no god stirs. Time itself seems to pause here, wrapped in the heavy folds of memory and loss, where the echoes of valor and despair entwine in eternal lament. The fields where titans clashed are now draped in stillness, the bones of giants half buried in ashen soil. Faint footprints, the last traces of those who dared to walk among shattered gods, fade beneath creeping shadows. Ghostly winds carry the scent of burned incense and cold metal, a funeral dirge sung by the dying cosmos itself. In the distance, broken spires disappear into rolling mists, like lost fingers reaching for heavens that no longer heed mortal cries. Here, the universe ruminates on the cost of endless war, as quiet and heavy as stone resting atop forgotten graves. A lone remembrancer records these fading echoes with trembling hands, her eyes reflecting the dying light of alien stars. Each stroke of her quill sketches the fragile bones of history, the shattered bridges between mortal devotion and divine reckoning. Her voice, a mere whisper against the vastness, speaks of souls who marched into voids without hope of return, of choices forged in fire and regret. She knows no final answer dwells here, only the weight of questions too vast for any prayer. What remains when gods have fallen silent? What survives in the spaces faith could never fill? These are the hymns that shape the twilight of ages. The twilight deepens as memory becomes the only sanctuary. Images flicker, cracked icons bathed in spectral light, silent warriors standing eternal vigil beneath blood-stained banners. Their faces are etched with valor and sorrow, locked forever in the uneasy peace after violence. The stars above bear witness to their silent testimony, an elegy for salvation lost, for dreams turned to dust. The air vibrates with the ghost of hymns half remembered, carrying unanswered truths upon a fragile tide of time. Here, amid ruin and quiet, the soul of a galaxy mourns its imperiled hopes. The chronicles speak of sacrifice, of souls offered to the abyss, their voices a chorus fading yet relentless. The remembrancer's quill lingers on the names of the fallen, each a testament to endurance and the shattering of dreams. Her ink weaves shadows and light, capturing the delicate balance between despair and determination. Yet within this delicate tapestry lies the cruelest mystery. How much can faith endure before it becomes the weight that sinks the soul? What price will the universe pay for survival if the gods themselves have forsaken their covenant? These questions hover like dust motes in the fading light, unanswered, eternal. Silent echoes ripple through holy ruins, where faded frescoes tell of celestial wars waged beyond mortal sight. The walls tremble with the memory of chants once filled with unwavering conviction, now broken into shards of doubt. Bones long buried beneath the cathedrals speak quietly in the restless dark, their stories etched into the marrow of forgotten heroes. Shadows lengthen, swallowing light slowly but inexorably, as if the stars themselves recoil from the burden of this ancient grief. In the cold breath of endless night, faith waits not for revival, but perhaps for final forgiveness. Through shattered plains where empires once stood proud, the wind scatters tattered flags, carrying them like lost prayers into the void. Beneath them lie silent corpses, warriors, bound not by victory, but by relentless duty. Their gaze, forever fixed on horizons never reached, reflects the agony of unwavering loyalty in a universe that demanded more than it gave. The silence left behind is thick with regret, a quiet cathedral larger than any built by hands, where absence echoes louder than any hymn. It is a space carved out by the weight of survival, brutal and hollow, yet unyielding. Amid the slow drift of stars and ruin, the remembrancer's final lines speak not of triumph, but of endurance, of the fragile ember that flickers beyond the collapse. She writes with reverence for those who bore the impossible burdens, who marched on when light failed and gods turned away. Yet her voice softens into a question that lingers in the void. What becomes of the soul consigned to a cosmos where silence reigns? What faith remains when the echo of divine footsteps fades into eternity? These words float like dust through the cathedral of stars, a haunting, timeless elegy. Final flickers of light dim on ruined altars where no prayer rises any longer. The pulse of the universe slows, stretched thin by endless sorrow and struggle. Yet in that deep, aching quiet, something stirs a faint trembling beneath the cosmic dust, a whisper of hope or ruin yet unknown. The future holds no promises, only the weight of choices made and paths irrevocably taken. As the chronicle closes, it asks the silent witness to ponder the fragile balance between faith and oblivion, between salvation and the price of survival. It is here, in the stillness, that true reckoning waits. Beneath the gathering shadows, a final image lingers, a solitary figure standing amidst the ruins, poised between the echoes of gods and the breath of mortals. Their gaze is a mirror reflecting all the faith and despair of the ages, a testament to endurance in a dying cosmos. This figure turns slowly, a beacon of fragile resolve, urging witness to the end and beginning entwined. The truth remains veiled, yet the weight of silence itself testifies to a shift eternal and unspoken. The universe weeps quietly, bearing scars that will never fade. A whispered invitation flows from the pages of the Lost Chronicle, carried on starlight and shadow. Stand witness now, bear witness to the dying embers of a war that shaped gods and mortals alike, and to the quiet aftermath where faith trembles but does not break. Engage with the story, like, subscribe, share the echoes of this tale, and let your voice join the chorus that remembers. For in these whispered legacies lie the fragile hope that through remembrance, even the most broken faith might find a spark. Will you stand with the fading light? Will you bear the weight of memory when all else has crumbled? The questions remain, lingering in silence like dust through a cathedral of stars, timeless, haunting, eternal.